Hi guys, Mick Lynch is a sort of hero for me. He's somebody who can hold his own when journalists try to twist and turn his words. He can eat people like Piers Morgan or Kay Burley for breakfast and still have room for brunch. He's of course a wonderful General Secretary for the RMT Union when it comes to standing up for its members and ensuring safety and peace of mind for rail users. A true man of the people and a great union leader. But we all have our blind spots, and unfortunately for Mick, it's Brexit.
You still have no regret about Brexit?
I regret that the Conservatives are in power during Brexit, but we were asked a question on the principle that the European Union is at this time privatising every railway in Europe, liberalisation as they call it.
But do you not accept that there is more employment protection in Europe?
Not necessarily, because it's up to the UK Parliament to protect workers in this country. Keir Starmer, when he comes into power next year, is telling us he's going to bring in a new Bill of Workers' Rights, which will overturn all this.
Do you have confidence in Keir?
Okay, it cuts off there. Okay, let's start from the end first. Keir Starmer is talking about bringing in a new Bill of Rights for workers. Well, let's hope that happens. Let's hope that it's stronger than what the Tories have in place at the moment, which is pretty much nothing. So yes, it would be better than what the Tories have. Now, we can't be sure until Labour are in power, but I would imagine they would try and do something like that. The RMT is not affiliated with the Labour Party, so they won't have any influence over that, but I'm pretty sure that the Labour Party will strengthen worker protections. Now, this is the other point, before we get to the Brexit point. The European Union set a minimum standard. The Tories have set no standard. You know, this is the consequence of Brexit, that the minimum standard has been removed. Now, Mick was saying, well, that's not the Brexit that I voted for, and that's not the Brexit I wanted. I wanted a Brexit with Jeremy Corbyn in charge, or the Labour government in charge, which would have strengthened the worker protections. But if there's a minimum standard, you're free to go beyond that, above that. And I'm sure if Jeremy Corbyn had won the election, he would have implemented a higher standard than the European baseline. But at least there's a baseline. Now there's none. And if Labour get into power at the next election, and if they're removed at the one after that, then what's to stop the Tories from returning and removing the protections that were fought for and won by a Labour government and unions? So it's not a guarantee. And of course, the main point here, Brexit. You know, I admire Mick Lynch. I've said this before, but when it comes to Brexit, I think he's completely wrong. He talked about the EU is privatising rail networks around Europe. Okay, the EU is not privatising anything. It's states that privatise. The EU have said... So the EU brought in a directive called 91/440, which was about allowing private companies access to the rail network, and making sure that if there are operators, that the state can also be an operator on the network and compete with private companies. It's about reducing prices for consumers and increasing quality for consumers, and allowing private companies to compete with state companies and state companies to compete with private companies. So it's not a closed market. For example, SNCF, the French national rail company, is France's national state-owned rail company. So what are you talking about when you're talking about privatization? In France, this operator of high-speed rail is state-owned. This is slightly different in Italy. Trenitalia is the primary train operator in Italy, a subsidiary of Ferrovie di Stato Italiane, itself partly owned by the Italian government, a company, and partly from private investors group. So this is part state-owned, part private company, but it's providing a service to the public, and it's regarded the feedback from the public is pretty good. Let's put it that way. Generally, in Ireland there is Corazon Perern, which operates the bus service in Ireland, the bus in cities and between cities, and also the rail network. And it's a statutory company, is answerable to the Irish government. So you have different operators in Europe, it's not about just complete privatization. You have state companies either completely running a rail network or a rail operator. You have semi-state operators as well. So I think what Mick is saying here, that the European Union just want to privatize everything, is not true. And Brexit is not helping workers, it's doing the opposite. It's allowing private companies to run roughshod over worker protections, and you have a Tory state, a Tory government, which is supporting them. Once again, I'm disappointed to criticize. I'm disappointed that I have to criticize Mick over this, but I think it's correct. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.